SUVs are by far the most popular vehicles in the automotive industry today, and choosing an SUV in a sea of all kinds of models from various manufacturers is an extremely hard feat. You'll have to take into consideration practically everything: design, resale value, initial price, comfort, and, above all else, reliability. Thankfully, there is a myriad of excellent vehicles you can buy without making any compromises. But there are also a slew of models that manage to miss out on every one of the previously mentioned requirements that a modern SUV requires. Today, we'll take you through an in-depth look at the 4 worst and 4 best SUVs to buy this year. Let's start with the most terrible models a person can buy nowadays. Number 4. Jeep Wrangler. The Jeep Wrangler is definitely an incredible off-roader. That is something we can't deny. However, as good of an off-roader as it is, the Jeep Wrangler has been regarded as one of the worst vehicles in every other regard. First of all, the suspension of the Wrangler is terrible. It's extremely soft, to the point that it is absolutely dangerous at higher speeds, as the vehicle has unbelievable amounts of body roll. Not to mention the infamous death wobble, which occurs at high speeds and which practically leaves you completely powerless as your vehicle loses control. Apart from that, there are a myriad of QC and reliability issues, especially with the hybrid powertrain, which has been known for all kinds of failures and gremlins that make it one of the worst propositions on the market. This includes both the electric powertrain and the Hurricane 4-cylinder engine, which is amongst the most problematic units in the entire segment. The 3.6-liter Pentastar V6 is a little bit better, and so is the Hemi V8. However, both of these engines are still very subpar compared to the vast majority of the powertrains available amongst practically all of its rivals. That said, the Wrangler is still an incredibly capable off-roader, which is why it is still the least bad vehicle on our list, as it does have some kind of utilitarian value. That said, we'd argue that the Bronco annihilates it, but more on that later. Number 3. Ford Escape. The Ford Escape is the epitome of generic mediocrity. It is extremely dull in terms of exterior design. The interior is probably what would come up if you asked ChatGPT to give you an image of a modern Econobox interior, and the reliability is simply not good enough. And if that wasn't enough, the comfort levels are extremely unremarkable, and the driving dynamics are no different either. And this all makes the Ford Escape stand out as the perfect example of peak mediocrity. And yeah, we know, some people just want a no-thrills vehicle. But there's a big problem with that statement, and that's the fact that the Toyota RAV4 exists. It's just as unremarkable as the Escape, however, it retains its value considerably better. The interior is much more practical, and the vehicle is just so much more reliable, especially the hybrid and the PHEV. The thing about the Ford Escape is that it poses as a no-thrills commuter car, while hiding an overly complicated and overstrained vehicle underneath. A vehicle that relies on small engines with forced induction that have an extremely low life expectancy. Number 2. Jeep Compass. Everything we said for the Ford Escape translates to the Jeep Compass. Just, well, worse in every possible way. The Jeep Compass is just as bland of a vehicle as the Ford Escape, except for the fact that it's made by Stellantis, which is to say, if it doesn't break down, it'll fall apart. Its interior, while nice to the eye, is made out of cheap materials and is generally mismatched, with great panel gaps and all kinds of errors and QC issues. The exterior is no better, and to add salt to the wound, it's also incredibly dated, seeing how this is a mid-2010s design that has been redesigned only slightly. The powertrains are also complete garbage, as all of them have a problem with oil consumption and have a generally considerably shorter life expectancy than all of their rivals. Finally, the resale value of the Jeep Compass is non-existent. It's nearing the end of its lifespan, which marks a negative impact on the value itself. However, Jeep and Stellantis' current market status only lowers the used price of the Compass, which is, once again, a byproduct of Stellantis' terrible quality. That said, this isn't the worst new SUV you can buy. and it's not even the worst Stellantis SUV. Number 1. Dodge Hornet. What was the point of the Dodge Hornet? We certainly don't know, and it seems that the rest of the US doesn't have an idea either. Seeing how this vehicle, which has been present on the market for less than 2 years, has been consecutively regarded as the worst-selling and least popular vehicle in the compact crossover segment, consistently selling over 10 times less compared to its direct rivals. Honestly, it's not like this is unexpected, as the Hornet costs considerably more than the Jeep Compass, which it shares its platform with, while also being a badge-engineered vehicle. You see, this is not a Dodge, but an Alfa Romeo Tonale with a Dodge front end. Finally, the vehicle has already proven to be extremely underwhelming in every possible way except for handling. It has weak engines, it is generally pretty unreliable, and it has a relatively harsh ride. It's just a thoroughly conflicted vehicle, and whatever else you buy, you'll be getting a better vehicle. But all is not lost, as there are also quite a bit of great SUVs that we need to tackle. Number 4. Toyota RAV4. The Toyota RAV4 keeps going forward as one of the most popular vehicles on the market, despite still being in its 5th generation. Sure, it's old, and sure, it is bland and forgettable, especially today after it has sold millions of units. However, you'll still be getting the best commuter out of all the SUVs. Its 2.5-liter naturally aspirated engine is practically bulletproof. The suspension is exceptionally durable. There are very few electrical gizmos, and everything has been made with ergonomics and practicality in mind. And while sure, there most certainly are vehicles that are fancier, more luxurious, and more modern than the RAV4, it is still what we consider the best buy of its segment. However, since it will be redesigned soon, we have to put it a little lower on our list. Number 3. Ford Bronco. Where the Wrangler fails, the Ford Bronco excels. The Bronco has been taking away the Wrangler's crowd ever since it was introduced, and frankly, we're not surprised. It's a better-looking vehicle, it has much greater practical value, it's considerably more comfortable, has a drastically more roadworthy suspension, and is also considerably more modern in every possible way. Plus, it's also very comparably capable off-road to the Wrangler. Sure, it's not as good as it, as the Bronco is more of an all-rounder, and its front and rear suspension are generally more complex than the Wrangler. However, you'll still be getting the bigger part of the Wrangler's capability, while being very comfortable and drivable on the road too. But the biggest benefit, in our opinion, sits under the hood. The 2.3 EcoBoost engine is just a proper workhorse engine, much unlike that mediocre Hurricane engine, while the 2.7 EcoBoost laughs in the face of the Wrangler's Pentastar. And even though we prefer the Hemi V8 to the Bronco Raptor's 3.0 twin-turbo EcoBoost, the Bronco is still a better vehicle overall. Number 2. Toyota 4Runner. However, even the Ford Bronco has its penicillin, and that is the Toyota 4Runner. While not as capable as the Bronco, and while not as beautiful as it, the 4Runner is an even better vehicle than the American Icon in terms of reliability, quality, and pricing, while also being pretty comparable to it in terms of road comfort. The new 2.4-liter Turbo 4 engine used in the 4Runner is still relatively unproven, but we'd argue that it will be more than good, seeing how this is Toyota we're talking about after all. So, is it a better off-roader? No, but it's not considerably worse than it either. And it is a better all-rounder, as it is a generally more understated and no-nonsense vehicle of the two. In our opinion, if you primarily need an SUV that will be an off-roader, go for the Bronco. But if you need something that will combine everything and not break the bank, then the 4Runner represents the best choice. Just avoid the Wrangler, if that wasn't evident enough. That said, what if you want something that is completely road-oriented and that offers a high level of luxury and all kinds of amenities? Number 1. Genesis GV80. The Genesis GV80 has made the premium brands look like amateurs and econoboxes, all while costing drastically less than them. The GV80 is by far the best midsize SUV of them all, and while not a capable off-roader, it is the most luscious cruiser, with acres of real leather, aluminum, wood, and other extremely premium materials on the inside, all nearly woven and combined. This makes it look not just better than the likes of its direct rivals, i.e. the Mercedes GLE or BMW X5, but also more expensive vehicles. Heck, putting the car neck to neck with a 6 times more expensive Bentley Bentayga shows us just how incredibly gorgeous it is, and how thoughtfully and well made it is. Plus, this is Hyundai after all, and that means that you will be getting a vehicle that is just as reliable as a Toyota. And all of this for a price that is drastically lower than any of its previously mentioned rivals. Only amplifies how good it is. So, if you've got the money, just go for it and get the GV80. You won't regret it.